What are they doing?
What happened? They're all gone?
Yeah, I don't know what's going on.
See if the,
It's 7 p.m. Let's unmute everybody, please. All right, whenever you're ready, Mr. Mayor.
Okay. Okay, I'd like to call this meeting to order. Can I please have a roll call,
can
Jason?
you hear me?
Okay. Council President Perez.
Here.
Councilmember Corman.
Here.
Councilmember Prince.
Here.
Councilmember McIrvin.
Here.
Councilmember O'Halloran. Okay, Councilmember O'Halloran. Councilmember Benedetti.
Here.
Councilmember Van.
Here.
Roll call, Mr. Mayor. One absent, but I believe, Councilmember O'Halloran.
I'm here.
Okay, all present, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, thank you. Next up is the administrative report.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor. Good evening, council members. I have three items for you tonight. First is regarding the census. Our census invitations have been arriving in your mailboxes. Please don't delay. Take the time to register with the census. The city does receive an ongoing update of how many Renton residents have registered, and we're starting to fall slightly behind our counterparts in our latest census counts. Please take a few minutes to complete your census. Take this time to reach out to a neighbor and see if they need help with simply a reminder. But I know you can do your part to help Renton fully count all of our community members. The second item, in addition to the briefing the mayor provided this evening, was you can find information on the city's website and social media pages regarding the city's COVID-19 response. The mayor is issuing a daily newsletter around the end of the day and has the most up-to-date information and access to state and county resources. If you haven't signed up for the mayor's newsletter yet, you can do so at rentonwa.gov/MNL. And lastly, if you'd like information about preventative street maintenance, traffic impact projects, and other road closures happening this week, you can find that at rentonwa.gov/traffic. That's all. Thank you, Mayor.
Okay, thank you. Next up is audience comment. And in response to COVID-19, council members are meeting via teleconference. City Hall will be open for the meeting. However, residents are encouraged to participate by submitting comments in advance. Email at cityclerk@rentonwa.gov or drop off written comments Monday through Friday, 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. at the police walk-up window at Renton City Hall, just south of the main entrance, and put in care of the city clerk. Okay, next is consent
Mr. Mayor?
agenda.
Mr. Mayor? Mr. Mayor?
Yes.
I actually received 3 comments. Would you like me to read them for this week?
Yes, please.
Okay, the first comment is from a Mr. Chris Edson, and he just submitted a link to an article. Let's see. My video. He submitted a link to an article about the pandemic. The second person was a Mr. Wayne Delaron, asking questions about why businesses such as the Tap Room off Benson was still open with attendance over 50 people, and asking how the ban will be enforced, or how the enforcement will go. And then the final one is from a Miss Yolanda Martinez, and she is asking questions about makeshift hospitals in the Renton area. All of these comments were forwarded to council and the administration. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, sir. Now, next up is the consent agenda.
Mr. Mayor,
Council President.
I move that the council concur with the consent agenda as published. Second.
It's been moved and seconded that council concur with the consent agenda. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The motion carries. Next up, we have.
I was just going to say that was an aye from me. I was on mute.
Okay. We're all ayes. Okay, next up is unfinished business. Council President Perez.
No unfinished business, Mr. Mayor.
Councilmember Corman.
No unfinished business, Mr. Mayor.
Councilmember Prince.
No unfinished business, Mr. Mayor.
Councilmember McGurven.
No unfinished business, Mr. Mayor.
Councilmember O'Halloran.
No unfinished business, Mr. Mayor.
Councilmember Benedetti.
No unfinished business, Mr. Mayor.
And Councilmember Van.
No unfinished business, Mr. Mayor. I think that's it.
Thank you. Let's see here. Next up, we have legislation. We do have a resolution and an ordinance.
Okay, we have two resolutions. The first one is regarding the the sale of property and grant of easements to WashDOT. The resolution of the City of Renton, Washington, authorizing the sale of a portion of city-owned property, grant of 2 temporary easements over portions of city-owned property, and grant of an access easement over a portion of city-owned property to the State of Washington Department of Transportation, WashDOT, in relation to WashDOT's I-405 Renton to Bellevue widening and express toll lanes project, and authorizing the mayor to sign the necessary documents and take the necessary actions to transfer title and grant of the easements.
Mr. Mayor.
Councilmember McGurven.
Yes, question for Jason real quick before I move the resolution. We extended the public comment period for this. Did we receive any additional comments on this? I didn't see any, so I'm assuming the answer is no, but I just want to confirm that.
The answer is no additional comments, sir.
Thank you, Jason. So with that, I'd like to move that the council adopt the resolution as read.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and second that the council adopt the resolution as read. All in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? Okay, motion carries. Next up, we have an ordinance.
Oh, I'm sorry. We have another resolution, Mr. Mayor. It's for the supporting the state's moratorium on evictions.
Okay, it's not on my sheet, but
Oh, I'm sorry. A resolution of the City Council of the City of Renton, Washington, supporting the Washington State moratorium on residential evictions for non-payment of rent and supporting Mayor Pavone's emergency order 2020-3, supporting the same.
Mr. Mayor.
Council President Perez.
I move the resolution be adopted as read.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. Any conversation before we vote?
Yes, Mr. Mayor.
Councilmember McGurven.
Yes, so I'm all good with passing this today. I think obviously this is something I very much support, and I want to thank you for bringing that forward. I think that this is a good signal we can send in terms of our support for the action the governor's already taken. I don't know if this is the appropriate spot to address the issue of late fees. I know we can always go back and apply those retroactively if we need to, or if it's if there's interest amongst the council to do that, and staff sees that as something we can easily add on the fly, I'd be open to doing that as a friendly amendment. Otherwise, let's revisit that issue separately.
Mr. Mayor.
Yes, Councilor.
I'm supportive of the ideals behind the waiver of the late fees. So I want to stress that. I own some rentals, and I wouldn't think about charging a late fee for somebody who was out of a job because of this this crisis. But I would like to ask that we do very careful messaging if we waive the late fees. to make it clear that we're not inviting a rent holiday for everybody that's renting. And that's really important because the owners, especially of the small rentals, still have mortgages to pay and taxes to pay. And there's certainly people that do still have their jobs, they're working from home, and they're still making an income that may in fact be better off than their landlord, who might be struggling right now. And so I just want to be careful that we don't say that it's a time for everybody to get well by not paying their rent. It needs to be really clear that it's if it's linked to a job loss, that we're asking landlords not to accrue late fees, but also along with encouraging people that can pay to recognize that their landlord has bills to pay as well. So I just would like that all wrapped up in the same message.
Yeah, and Council Member Corman, this was a topic of discussion, and one of the concerns was, and I do agree with you in terms of, being in support of, not having those kind of late fees. The real concern was what kind of legal footing we're really on here. There's probably a reason that the governor didn't go that far in his proclamation. And so obviously we can visit this item and figure it out as we go. It is a policy decision, but that was kind of the reason where we stopped short of that, concerning whether or not we were putting the city in financial harm or not. The idea behind it is a great idea. It's whether or not we can actually do it or not and enforce it. So,
Yes, Mr. Mayor?
Councilmember Khan.
Councilmember Van. Yes, I echo both of my colleagues, and I think that it's important to send a clear message. And I think that folks who are renters, tenants, myself who've been tenants in the past, I have lived that life and have seen that life, and that I think for us back then, it wasn't really just trying to, wait and not pay. But I am very much in support of the moratorium on eviction, and I would like to add at least 2 to 3 months moratorium. And the reason for that is that if we're talking about we are ahead of the curve, and the governor is the one who's doing the basic level, we really need to think about our 42.8% of residents who are going to be pushed out of their homes. But it's not to say that they're not going to be paying, because I'm a landlord right now, and I feel for people when they're on paycheck to paycheck, and there are folks in communities of darker color or vulnerable populations, actually pushing them out and doing all this during this time of crisis. And I'm not talking about just winter months. Like that, for me, it's just not even consideration. But this particular situation calls us to step and rise up to the occasion to really protect our residents. And I'd like to add in a 3-month in addition to supporting the governor.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes, Councilmember.
Thank you. So I agree with the 3 council members, but I want to emphasize what I understood the council member Corman concern was, and I did receive an email from a constituent that she's a single mother and her only income is the property that she's a widow, so her husband left a property for her to rent, and that's her only income. So she is concerned that she is going to be the one that's going to be homeless soon, is she doesn't have, that rent coming on her. So I do agree that we need to help our community, but I also agree with Councilmember Corman that we should look into details about who is, when the people that we're going to give them this late fee, what is their situation, and specifically they lost their job, and what is the landlord situation, because if we are going to be affecting different kind of population in Renton by not considering the needs of the tenants as well. And I'm not talking about the big tenant. I'm talking about the, our seniors, that some of them live in a fixed income, and their income is the properties that they can purchase as a way to retirement. I'm talking about the people that's the way they provide for their families. So I will be looking forward to see what our attorney has to say about this, and that are my 2 cents on this.
Yeah, Mr. Mayor?
Councilmember Van, and then Councilmember Prince.
Yes, and the reason I say that is, yes, I think at the point where you get to eviction, because I've done eviction proceedings myself in the past for landlords, I think that we can't force folks in their contractual relationship. That's just not what we do. But as policymakers, I think we look at the overall population, and I hope that by the time that it gets to this eviction process, the tenant or the renter has already been talking to the landlord and having that relationship. They're transparent about their situation, so it wouldn't lead to this particular eviction or the whole system. Like, we're thinking everyone's not going to be paying rent. I don't think that's the case. I am very much concerned for our 42.8% of the residents. Councilmember Corman, myself, I'm a landlord. It's not that I don't want money. I think that we really think about this, because this is a pandemic that we're putting people at harm's risk. And I think that folks should just stay home and really take care of their family, which then they can take care of our community health. And that's what I'm looking into. And lastly, HUD, if I may add, did put a 2 months moratorium on foreclosure and eviction for for first home mortgage rate. So just add that.
Councilmember Prince.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I am in favor of this. However, I believe that 2 things. One, we need to see where this thing is going. And so I'm more in favor of starting off with 30 days and revisiting than I am with saying 60 days or 90 days or whatever, because we don't know right now how long this is going to last. I think, in fact, I know that's the reason why the governor started with 30 days. So I think staying with 30 days, seeing where this goes, and revisiting it makes more prudent sense to me.
Okay, so we have a motion and a second on the floor. Any more comment before I take a vote on it?
Would we
Mr.
be
Mayor?
amending it, or would we? Sorry.
Councilmember Benedetti.
I just wanted to reiterate, and I think this came up, how important it is for us to get the legal opinion about this and really hear from our city attorney about what it is that we as a city can do within the legal bounds.
And so, if I may, what's on the table right now to pass is basically language that will be adopting what the governor has already proclaimed and put out there. That doesn't mean that you can't start another pathway if there's policy that you wanted to change or add down the road. So we can either, Jason, you'll have to help me out here, but what are our options at this point? Do we just vote on it or hold it, or?
Well, I believe I'm sorry. I believe we need to vote on the motion that's on the floor before moving.
Okay.
And Mr. Mayor?
Yes, Councilmember Corman.
I guess my view would be that since this is an emergency proclamation and it's an important one and it's written and vetted, that we could go ahead and approve it, and nothing would stop us next week from adding additional aspects to it.
That is correct.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes, Councilmember Booker.
well, one thing would stop us next week, which is that next week is a 5th Monday, but But my question would be, can we apply those items retroactively? And maybe for the city attorney to answer that is, if we were to go back for the late fees, because I agree with Councilmember Van that the federal government provided mortgage relief, so I don't think the impact would be that severe necessarily to the landlords. I'm certainly open to waiting on the extension because as it continues, we can do that at a later date very easily. But I want to make sure we don't end up with late fees that are assessed as a result of this that we can't go back in time on.
I would ask for input.
I'll jump in there, Mr. Mayor. from the attorney's office. I think there's the question of whether or not we can retroactively apply it. I don't know that we can answer that immediately. Maybe we'll get an answer about that in the next couple of days. But I do agree with Jason that from a parliamentary perspective, I think this needs to be voted on since it's been moved and seconded unless it's tabled. And so the city attorney's office can continue to research some of the issues that have been raised here.
Mr. Mayor.
Yes, Mr. Gorman.
Yeah, and I don't want to beat this to death, but I guess I would like to offer that that I think there needs to be even a little more of a holistic answer to this. And I think Seattle's already discussing it, and I suspect they're talking about it at the state, where I think there is an issue where if we say you have 30 days relief or even 2 months relief, there's definitely going to be terrified residents that will feel like, oh, I'm still going to have to start looking for a new apartment now because, you know, the month will go quickly and then I'm going to get kicked out, so I need to find a place. And so I think Seattle's trying to address that, or they're starting to talk about it. They talked about a 6-month moratorium, which at first as a landlord, I thought, wow, that's a really long time for a moratorium. But then I understood what the details were, which is that they are starting to talk about, and the problem is, of course, no one knows the timeline, but if, say, everybody's out of work for 2 months, Seattle's starting to talk about what's the catch-up plan, that a tenant can't be asked to pay more than a third of a month rent in addition to the regular rent as they catch up. And so that starts giving people the confidence that they're going to be able to stay in their place and they don't need to go out on a new home search right now because they're falling behind. And I think that's a good idea, but we're obviously not going to be able to do it tonight. Plus, I think we're going to get some good guidance from not only Seattle and the state, but even the Rental Housing Association is talking about that. And that all fits together with what I was describing as the messaging. And I wanted to be really clear on that point, that I'm not talking about, it's not the small percent that's having troubles making their rent. I'm not trying to message to them, hey, you guys, you need to worry about paying your rent on time. It's the vast majority of people are going to be able to pay their rent. And I just want to make sure that we don't do anything that makes them think it's not required or expected. So anyways, so my thought is we go ahead and put through the motion that's on the table now, and then we come back and visit it and make sure that everybody, tenants and landlords alike, feel good about the catch-up plan.
Yeah, and if I might add, I think that this issue is universal, not to our city, but to our state and the entire country. My guess is whatever work we do is probably going to be superseded by what the state ends up doing around this. I would have to imagine that they are thinking these same things where you can't have a third of the population homeless all at once because they can't pay their rent. But
right.
Yeah. Mr. Mayor.
Yes.
I just want to thank and appreciate the leadership of Councilmember Corman and his yes.
Thank you.
You are about because you are someone that has properties and as someone that rents these properties, firsthand these issues and you understand perfectly what our community is going through. So thank you very much for your leadership on this.
Thank you very much.
Okay, so we're going to take a vote on this at this time.
So, Mr. Mayor, if I may ask, so the vote that we're going to be making is basically on the legislation, but we can't motion to amend, to tweak it, not necessarily the duration, but I would like to add in there that, in support of Governor Jay Inslee's proclamation, of course, the 30-day moratorium on eviction, with us at that point in time revisiting the issue of the length of moratorium? Could we add any term in that, or is this not?
I don't think we can change it on the fly here.
No, just a subject to revisit later. Okay, or we just bring it up on a separate matter.
Yeah,
Okay,
Separate motion.
okay.
Separate motion.
We can make a separate motion, correct?
Okay, thank you.
All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed? Okay, motion carries. Next up, we have ordinance.
Okay. This is for the second and final reading, so it'll require a roll call vote for the latecomer assessment for the Sunset Lane Improvement Project. An ordinance of the City of Renton, Washington, establishing the latecomer assessment for the Sunset Lane Northeast Improvement Project, providing for severability, and establishing an effective date.
Mr. Mayor,
Councilmember Prince.
I move the proclamation be adopted as read.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. The ordinance is adopted. This requires a roll call.
Okay. Council President Perez.
Yeah.
Councilmember Corman.
Aye.
Councilmember Prince.
Aye.
Councilmember McIrvin.
Aye.
Councilmember O'Halloran.
Aye.
Councilmember Benedetti.
Aye.
And Councilmember Van.
Aye.
Roll call, Mr. Mayor, all ayes.
Okay, thank you very much. Next up is new business. Council President Perez.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. On Monday, March 30th, as Councilmember McIrvin mentioned, we will not have a meeting because it's a fifth Monday. And on Monday, April 6th at 5:30, we will be having a committee of the whole that we will be discussing the Sound Transit Strategic Plan. This is a teleconference, so people will be able to join us on Channel 21 or through our website, or later they can find the video on YouTube. The same Monday, April 6th at 7 p.m., we will have our City Council meeting as well via teleconference, and people will be able to join us the same way through Channel 21 in the City of Renton or on our website, or as well as visit our YouTube. We want to encourage again all our residents to please connect with every single council member via email. And if you have any questions or comments, you can email all of those well to the city clerk, or drop a note at City Hall, or just send us a letter. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Next up is Councilmember Corman.
I believe I have no new business, Mr. Mayor.
Okay. Councilmember Prince.
No new business, Mr. Mayor.
Councilmember McIrvin.
Yes. First of all, I'd like to go ahead and announce that the Transportation Committee scheduled for Monday, April 6th has been canceled. The second, that's the only meeting to announce. The second issue, I just want to make sure we do, and I'm happy to make this a motion if that's the best way to do it, that we do revisit the late fee issue at that meeting, and that we're prepared to do that if we need to. We'll have more information. Obviously, because it'll be a new month, some people's rent will be due, so the late fees could be assessed at that date. So I think it's important we do that. Happy to make that a motion if that would be the best way to do that, or if we should refer that to committee. But I'm up with suggestions from that.
May I make? Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Councilmember Prince.
I just make a suggestion to my colleague that we refer it to the administration and then have them come back to us.
That would be the proper motion. So I will.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded that the issue of late charges be referred to administration. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. You're up.
Okay, just making sure. So, yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. And last thing, I just want to commend Councilmember Benedetti on her awesome bookshelf background. I had background in place, but I had to switch devices because my iPad is running out of batteries and I don't have the cord handy. So I had the background in place I'm not going to commend Councilmember Prince on his background, though. So.
I was
I know where
wondering
you
if
live.
did I see the Starship Enterprise on your bookshelf, or did I imagine
Yes, you did. You mean the earlier in our committee of the whole meeting?
Yes.
All right, let's
Yes.
get back on track here. We're still in the middle of a meeting.
that? I love it.
Okay, so we will, the administration will look at that issue, and we will be back in touch with everybody here shortly. So next up is Council Member O'Halloran.
No new business, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, Council Member Benedetti.
No new business, Mr. Mayor.
Are those comic books? Council Member Van.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just wanted to let our community know that on April 6th, 2020, our Community Services Committee meeting will be canceled. And yes, and also I want to take this opportunity as we've been immersed with COVID-19 conversation, I motion to create a small business fund, small business stabilization fund of $200,000 to support our local small businesses.
Mr. Mayor,
Councilmember Corman.
if that was a motion to investigate the feasibility, I would second it. Based on what the attorney said, I guess I'm not quite comfortable approving that motion until we know more.
Okay.
So let me,
I think the motion was actually to fund it. Would you like to continue forward then, Councilmember Khan, or would you like to change your motion?
yeah, I would like to repeat it. I motion to create a small business stabilizations fund of $200,000 for our small businesses during this time of impact because of COVID-19. Now we can certainly look into it, the legality, but cities like Berrien has done it, and we're ahead of the curve. I'm not saying we're similar to Berrien or Seattle because we can't compare, but I look into our small businesses and our residents here and what the impact has caused, and and as far as the financial part, when we're talking with Ms. Jan Han at Committee of the Whole, we do have the financial. I think obviously the legality. Now, if we use some of our federal grants that we had in reserve, I think that would be, if yeah.
Mr. Mayor.
Councilmember McGurven.
So I very much support the concept of this. I do want to make sure, obviously, and if I understand the motion correctly, it wouldn't deal with how we allocate the funds. It would be setting them aside. If that is what I'm understanding correctly, I want to figure out if there's a way we can, in principle, move forward, as Councilmember Corman said, maybe with the concept while we still figure out the details. Because I think it's a great idea. I just want to make sure that we can, in fact, do it. And that we have the mechanisms in place for how it would actually get distributed, because I don't know that we have that part figured out yet. So I don't want to put the cart before the horse, but I completely support the concept that's been presented.
So then let me rephrase it. Then I will motion to do a feasibility study, the legality for the administration to check up on the legality of a small business stabilization fund.
Second.
Okay, so it's been moved and seconded that the administration look at the feasibility of a small business fund. You like that motion, Councilmember Vaughn?
Yes.
Okay, all in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed? Okay, we will look at that and get back to you.
And Mr. Mayor, I have another issue regarding the moratorium on eviction. I know we mentioned earlier, and I could get counsel from my colleagues if it's appropriate for me to make a motion here, or whether we can ask administration to take a look at the legality and so forth of a moratorium of at least 3 months, the 3 months moratorium, like the extension of the date, or to be revisited once the 30 days, once, that's April 27th or April, when did he make that date? March 18th, so April 18th, to revisit that.
I didn't hear, is that a motion you'd like to make?
Yeah, so motion to revisit.
Are we referring it to the administration? Is that what we're doing?
Well, I'm asking for you guys' guidance as far as should I refer, or do you guys prefer that I do a motion?
Mr. Mayor? That was Randy.
Councilmember Corman.
I actually understood that might be part of what we did refer to you already. But maybe I'm mistaken.
It is, yes.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
No, that was on the late fees. I don't think that was a mention of the moratorium period.
Jason, can you clarify for us?
One moment.
Mr. Mayor,
Okay,
go ahead, Jason.
Oh, sorry. So I have revisit the eviction and moratorium and late charges to the administration.
So it was both.
It was, yeah.
Oh, I didn't hear Councilman Irvin say that, but he was only motion on the late fees. Okay. And then
That was
lastly,
earlier.
yeah, in discussion, but I wasn't sure if I had to motion it. But thank you for the clarification.
Okay.
And lastly, I wanted to bring up, like I've mentioned at the Cal meeting, that this is not a Chinese virus. It's actually a virus that originated, yes, in China, just like many other things could be originated elsewhere. And the reason I'm bringing it up is because, again, I appreciate the mayor and the city for your newsletter from the get-go of talking about regarding the non-discrimination. The virus doesn't discriminate any particular population. And especially with our city being a city that's inclusive, and we have at least 25% of the API population, and what the occupant of the White House has mentioned has really gotten our community members in fear, and some, not necessarily in Renton that I know of yet, but I've gotten calls of saying that they're scared. And so I wanted to reiterate that we are a inclusive city, and that's what I wanted to state.
Is that everything there? Are you finished?
Yes, Mr. Mayor. Thank you.
All right. Anything else for the good of the order at this point? No. What is the wish of the council?
Move we adjourn.
Second.
Been moved and seconded that we adjourn. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. Thank you.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.